Hello everyone, in this video we're going to show why we suggest using Dify along with ByteGPT instead of using OpenAI's direct provider. Remember that Dify is an orchestrator of LLMs, meaning you can have multiple LLMs, including using OpenAI. But choosing a provider with ByteGPT can be between OpenAI directly using Dify, Chatbots, among other models. So we have an article that we posted on our blog here on our Bytebio site where we justify some of this. We brought the reading which I recommend. Among them, by making a comparison here, you'll see that you can use any other available model, including DeepSeek, Gemini, Meta, Cloud, Anthropic, among other. So you can build through flows, which we strongly recommend, instead of having separate assistants. The knowledge base part is also much more robust. You have more control over the models you want to use, the management of files, scraping on sites, among other possible tools. We have several integrators there, connectors that allow us via HTTP request to make requests. Yes, there are a series of advantages that combined bring power to your CRM in an incredible way. And by GPT, it makes this type of connection from the Kommo CRM to Dify as well. It can even be used with other CRMs in case tomorrow or later the possibility or eventuality of having to change the CRM arises. You preserve your intelligence, all your flow, your content in one place without necessarily depending on the CRM tool. So the flows are very easily built, have very good usability, allowing you to also test directly on it. It's a very powerful tool. And this orchestration that is allows you to use LLMs, which are AI models, deep learning knowledge models, where you can use, for example, GPT-4o or O1 or O3. You can put GPT-4o mini, you can put a DeepSeek, a Gemini, depending on the context of the situation, depending on a function. This also reduces costs, so you don't need to use just one model for all conversations. In addition, you can have functional arms of LLM where each box, each step is an instruction. It has a very significant and more specific token reduction than using, for example, a broad instruction like the one we usually do here at OpenAI, putting a long instruction to perform a series of actions for a single model. And if I need another assistant, of course, I can create another assistant here. And then by creating a second assistant, I can, for example, change the model, making the model more robust. But the context of this assistant's conversation, everything that happens in the conversation with this assistant is not noticed or perceived by this other one. In Dify, we have the possibility that everything that happens here in the scope of the conversation is included in the view of memory usage, which it arbitrates very well. So when we already think about using ByteGPT, by creating the connection within ByteGPT, we have the possibility to simply add Dify here. We also have Dify self-hosted for those who use a server like Railway, where from $5 you can already subscribe to the Railway plan and pay for the machine's consumption and not just request consumption. It ends up having many infinite requests. It's very practical. And then by placing it, you just put the key, an OpenAI key that we still use within ByteGPT for other functions that may be useful, and your Dify key. This Dify key you can get by creating a new app like Chatflow or Chatflow we suggest. Then you put your app name into action. It will therefore open the flow directly. You can then build here, but first come here in this last monitoring icon, and in API key, you will get this key. Then it should be pasted in the app key field and the OpenAI key. Once this is done, we can already access, therefore, that the account had been created. We download the download, right? By downloading the download, we then import here. I have already done this import, and you will therefore obtain the standard ByteGPT template, remembering that step 187 currently here when I record this video is linked to ChatGPT, and these 50 are for Dify's actions. I have already renamed it to Dify. In yours, it may still appear as Assistant, OpenAI, or something different. We have created new versions of these templates to make it easier, because sometimes we will no longer use the intention prompt within Kommo, because the idea is to do all the AI rationale there in Dify. For this, just as a brief example, I could create something like this, a simple application where I receive the client's message. This message is then sent to Dify right away. And from this field, this step, the actions start to happen directly in our Dify. With this, something you can simply disconnect, connect directly a 144 in case in your operation you receive direct messages, since it starts with AI. Thus, the received message, it will be triggered directly. So we have this feature. This step 9, it continues, because when it reaches the end that our API sends the response in the field, it returns to wait for the next user interaction. And these Kommo actions you leave for Kommo's things. You can leave some sales bots doing some actions, because it even allows Dify to call other sales bots. We will see this later. Once configured there, we will then deal here now in Dify, where we can build our instructions here and in the way you need, which would be those you naturally had in OpenAI or the new ones. This user is the prompt interaction that comes from our API that fills the user's message. And you can then also use other variables or build variables that modify conversation variables, environment variables. It is really very rich. To help in this process, we have already left a ready flow that you can download here in the video description for free, where we left the classifiers. And these classifiers, they basically serve as that point of intention. Every time a message is started, it will see in which class it identifies. You can simply put here about services, others, other subjects, or here greetings, and you can put a more specific, more directed instruction, so that an AI, like for example, a cheaper AI like GPT-4 Mini or another of your preference, does the classification from the message. With this, when testing, I can put it right here. No need to test in Kommo, because after it is already connected, you can just use the client's messages to see it working, but feel free if you want to test. An interesting feature in Dify that you can also see here, where it went in green, so many that were traveled here. And with this, we can do a how it works. It is another question. It will probably classify differently, classified as another. And then notice that this classifier was made by an AI. And then I can, for example, be more specific here, or depending on my instructions, that then it classified as ByteGPT, recovered the knowledge from my base here that was configuring the knowledge for this specific LLM. I am then recovering a knowledge. These others may not have had knowledge, but only instructions, and then I have greater specificity for each of these LLMs. So we have 4 LLMs here. It is simply easy for us to paste, because we can duplicate here. Also pressing Control D or Command D, I can select these blocks here. Move, I can duplicate them. So it is another advantage in relation to our sales bot. Since we have a very great ease, we can also reorganize the blocks here. We can move. We have the opportunity to put notes for the team, so that we ourselves remember later what it is about, being able to write anything on top or throughout this text. In addition to being able to redo according to the history that is on the computer. And the blocks, we have an infinity of blocks with knowledge recovery, which will bring the specific knowledge base question classifiers that we have already commented on, and fielse, which is yes, no. If you have conditionals, for example, if you have a type of question asked, a type of variable placed, you can put codes here in for several other tools as well, which are already native to Dify, in addition to a wonderful feature, which is the fact that we can put an HTTP request block to make interactions, for example, for API. If you need to connect databases, connect to other APIs, obviously external, then it is very practical and gives a very great ease. In addition to being able to also incorporate this on your site and have the possibility of having a link also as an application, other resources that can be placed as text to speech, speech to text, file upload, and in addition to also recovering specific files, when the user sends a file, you can then ask him to extract data from a document. It is really very powerful for the LLMs part. And in addition, we also have the feature of using any other LLM available on the market according to your preference. So, in case you don't know yet, you can enter bytebio.com/bytegpt and view or see our integrations, other templates. We are also making other templates available, such as scheduling on Google Calendar, among others, so that you can install it in your Kommo along with your CRM. And finally, to record the use of DeFi, we can have very complete flows, very rich in, for example, interactions with the CRM itself directly, making updates in the field, their side, or existing fields within the lead card or in the contact in the company. Throughout the conversation itself, not just waiting for a response. That is, I have so much response that is delivered to the user, as well as I can, in parallel, do some analysis interactions with the CRM, and even put, for example, the start of another sales bot. I can start another sales bot that has certain actions. Sometimes I have a sales bot that defines some fields as well, that changes some steps, or that does other internal actions, creates a task. Directly in Kommo, I can do this very easily using Kommo's documentation and making these interactions when a process is executed here within Dify. And finally, one of the points that we are very questioned about is regarding the differences that this can have with other integration tools such as NA10 or Make, Zapier. But in that article we mentioned at the beginning, we put the differences because although you can do many things with NA10 or Make, they are slightly different purposes. While these integrator tools are universal integrators with several other tools, they sometimes have a way of proceeding that may be more pertinent depending on the situation. But for this purpose of direct CRM interaction, doing all this management of memories, context, specificities, we have observed that Dify has a more assertive behavior. It ends up being more suitable for this type of use due to its specificities. So it is made leaner, more efficient, more specific as well, more assertive in its operation. Anything, count on us. We are available for deployments, implementations, or any other type of assistance in this ByteGPT process.